welcome to our YouTube channel. Today we are going to learn from the class 12 first lesson, the last lesson. So students, let's start. Chapter name is the last lesson. Before we understand the lesson, let's start with the writer's introduction. About the author, Alfonso Duret. His timing was 1840 to 1897. He was a French novelist and short story writer. The last lesson is set in the days of Franco-Prussian War, which happened in 1870 and 1871, in which France was defeated by Prussia, led by Bismarck. So here, your lesson's heading is the last lesson. Slightly awkward that even you have first lesson in 12th standard, but it has tagged with last lesson. But we'll understand the reason behind the title. But let's start the background of this lesson is depend on the Franco-Prussian War, which was happening during 1870 and 1871. So in this war, France was defeated by Prussia and the Prussian army was led by Bismarck. Prussia then considered of what now are the nations of Germany, Poland and parts of Austria. That time Prussia was one country, but if we want to understand the current parts of Prussia, then present time they are divided into different countries with the name of Germany, Poland and the few parts of Austria. In this story, the French district of Alsace and Lorraine have passed into Prussian hands. So exact location of the story that French districts Alsace and Lorraine have passed into Prussian hands. Read the story to find out what effect this had on the life at school. Now it was just a situation for the country and as well as it also affect the life of students and school. Let's start. I started for school very late that morning and was in a great dread of scolding, especially because M. Hamel had said that he would question us on particles. So here, the narrator, he said that he was already getting late that morning and he was in a great dread of scolding. Great dread of scolding, yani fearful in anticipation of something. What happened? If I am going late, then definitely teacher will punish me or scold me. Here, the narrator was afraid due to his teacher, M. Hamel. Because the teacher, the day before, the teacher said that they had to remember that rules of particles. And I did not know the first word about them. The narrator said that he was not ready with this task. For a moment, I thought of running away and spending the day out of doors. Like typical students, our narrator also thought that I must quit the school and spending my days out of the doors and out of the school. It was so warm, so bright. The birds were chirping at the edge of the woods and in the open field back of the sawmill, the Prussian soldiers were drilling. Here, the narrator explains the outside scenario. He said that the days was warm, so bright. The nature was also with the writer. He said that the birds were chirping at the edge of the woods and in the open field of sawmill. Sawmill यानी कि हम लोग बोलते हैं जो लकड़ी काटने का मिल होती है उसको बोलते हैं sawmill. And Prussian soldiers were drilling यानी कि doing exercise. It was all much more tempting than the rules of particles, but I had the strength to resist and hurried off to school. The writer says that all the natural beauty was completely tempting them. Just quit the school and enjoy the nature. But the writer was so firm. He said that he has strength to resist and hurried off to school. When I passed the town hall, there was a crowd in front bulletin board. The narrator says that when he was past the town hall, that time he found that there is a crowd in front of the bulletin board. Now what is bulletin board? Bulletin board यानी कि one kind of notice board. For the last 2 years, all our bad news had come from there. The writer says that from the last 2 years, whatever the bad news for them, for the people of the country, it came from that bulletin board. Which type of news? Lost battles, the draft, the orders of commanding officer, and I thought to myself. The writers thought that all type of bad news like lost of battles, draft, the orders, commanding officer, and the writer thought that what is new today? The writer says that without stopping, what can be the matter now? The writer thought that okay, we are already bad, all this bad news. Now what is new today? Then as I hurried by as fast as I could go, the blacksmith watcher who was there with his apprentice reading the bulletin called after me. Don't go so fast, Bob. You will get to your school in plenty of time. The writer says that he was hurried by as fast as he could because he was already late for the school, but he observed some people nearby that bulletin board, and one was that blacksmith watcher who was there with his apprentice. Apprentice यानी कि like assistant, and he was also reading the bulletin. He saw our writer, our narrator, and then said that Bab यानी कि champ, don't go so fast. You will get to your school in plenty of time. It means you will reach on time. Just don't worry. I thought he was making fun of me and reached M. Hamel's little garden all out of breath. The narrator said that he was making fun of me. And the blacksmith was making fun of our narrator because he was already late. And finally, he reached M. Hamel's little garden hurriedly. Usually when school began, there was a great bustle. Bustle means noise, which could be heard out in the street. The opening and closing of desks, lessons repeated in unison. The narrator said that in normal days of the school, whenever the school starts, there was a great noise of the students. Which type of voice? Which could be heard out in the street. The noisy atmosphere one can feel, like normal people can feel in the street also. Opening and closing of desk. Lessons repeated in unison. Unison means in one tone. Like whole class is chanting something. Very loud with our hands over ears to understand better. And the teacher's great ruler rapping on the table. The narrator says that we also put our hands on our ear to understand nice what we are saying. And the teacher has also that great ruler which is rapping on the table. But now it was all so still. I had counted on the commotion to get to my desk without being seen. But of course, the narrator says that all the noise were there, but I have counted this commotion means noise. I used that noise to reach my bench because there is a noisy atmosphere in the class, so no one has time to notice our writer that he is late. So here the writer thought that I use the same trick which I used before. That day everything had to be as quiet as Sunday morning. But there is a little bit surprising thing from our narrator. He said that day meaning the day which he was late for the school. He said that morning was completely quiet as Sunday. Why it's compared with Sunday? Because as we know, Sunday means no school, and no school means there is no noise around the school area. Through the window, I saw my classmates. The narrator was shocked. Why there is a period of silence? Let me see. So he used window to show the inner situation of the class. Already in the places, and M. Hamel walking up down with his hysterical iron ruler under his arm. The writer was also surprised. He said that situation is like normal. All the students were there. But our teacher walking here and there with this iron ruler under his arm. I had to open the door and go in before everybody. Now narrator is like challenge situation for him. I had to open the door and go inside the classroom in presence of everybody. You can imagine how I blushed and how frightened I was. The narrator says that you can imagine that every day I use that noisy atmosphere, take advantage of noisy atmosphere, and mostly I was unnoticed by the people. But today, it's completely pin drop silence in the class, and I have to go in the class in presence of teachers and full attention of the students. So he was blushed and frightened also. But nothing happened. And Hamel saw me and said very kindly, "Go to a place quickly. Little friends, we were beginning without you." But that day was shocking and strange for our narrator, because next thing, completely unexpected things happened in front of our narrator. He said that M. Hamel saw him. But the teacher's reaction was very polite. He said, "Go to your place quickly, little friends." So our narrator's name, Little Friends. We were beginning without you. Like here the teacher informing our narrator that you are late, it's okay, but we have already started the topic without you. I jumped over the bench and sat down at my desk. Narrator just jumped over the bench and sat down at a particular place. Not till then, when I had got a little over my fright, did I see that our teacher. The narrator sat on his bench and then he observed the classroom situation and his teacher's dressing also. He said that, "Did I see that our teacher had on beautiful green coat, his frilled shirt and a little black silk cap, all embroidered." The narrator said that, first of all, he observed the classroom situation and the teacher's dressing. He said that teacher has wear the frilled shirt, frilled decorated shirt, and little black silk cap, and all that clothes were embroidered. That he never wore except on inspection and prize days. The narrator says that today's teacher's dressing was different. He dressed up like this mostly on the day of inspection or prize day. Maybe annual function like situation. Besides, the whole school seemed so strange and solemn. The writer says that beside, the school is completely strange and solemn and calm situation. But the thing that surprised me most was to see on the black benches that were always empty. Next surprise for the narrator was today. The back benches of the classroom were full, but mostly for other days it was empty. So the narrator was surprised that the back benches were full, and the students of back benches were the village people sitting quietly like ourselves. Old Hodgson with his three-cornered hat, the former mayor, the former postmaster, and several other besides. The narrator says that the back benches were full with the people like Old Hodgson. There's a name of person. He wore the three-cornered hat. The former mayor, former postmaster, and several other besides. It means there's a normal village people. Everybody looked sad, and Hodgson had brought an old primer thumbed at the edges, and he held it open on his knees with his great spectacles lying across the pages. Narrator said that there was an old Hodson. He had hold a book, old primer. Old primer यानी the initial level grammar of French. Thumble at the edges. Thumble यानी bend at the edges. And he heard it open on his knees, and he was observing that book using his spectacles.